In the first Friday the 13th, a group of camp counselors get stalked and murdered while trying to reopen a camp, which years before had a child drown in the lake. In the movie, we see the killings in the killer's POV, and when the killer was revealed, which the killer was Pamela Voorhees, and that her son, Jason, was the one that drowned in the lake. And she blamed it on the counselors, so that's why she was killing them. And then she attacks the main character, Alice, until she chops her head off and escapes on a boat. Then Jason jumps out of the water, grabbing her, revealing that he was alive. And she wakes up at the hospital. It was written by Victor Miller and was produced and directed by Sean S. Cunningham. I really enjoyed the first Friday the 13th, but I guess you guys could say that's because it's the first film in the franchise, and the first movies are usually always the best ones. And yeah, that's true, I guess. But I enjoyed a lot about this film with seeing the killings in the killer's POV. Now off to Friday the 13th Part 2. The original idea for Friday the 13th was, well, it was going to be an anthology series. But they didn't really follow through with that idea. Friday the 13th Part 2 starts off with Alice, the survivor of the first Friday the 13th, who gets murdered by Jason. He stabs her with an ice pick into her head after she discovered the severed head of Pamela Voorhees in her refrigerator. 5 years later, and a group of teenagers come to Crystal Lake to set up a counselor training facility next to Camp Crystal Lake. The head counselor, Paul, tells the story of Jason Voorhees and his drowning and his mother who murdered a group of counselors in revenge. No one takes the tale seriously. Jason begins killing people wearing a sack on his head. Jenny dresses up as Mrs. Voorhees and tricks Jason into thinking that it's his mom and stabs him in the shoulder. Her and Paul go back to the cabin, then Jason jumps through the window, grabbing Jenny, and then it shows her taken off to the hospital, so we don't know if she dreamed about Jason jumping through the window, and we still don't know what happened with Paul. So the ending of the second movie is confusing, but the second Friday the 13th does have its flaws, but it's still a great movie to watch. The third Friday the 13th, that's in 3D, picks up on the day after the second film. Jason Voorhees stealing some clothes and finally putting on the hockey mask and killing a local store owner. Meanwhile, Chris and her boyfriend Rick are hosting a group of friends at Chris's lake house, despite a run-in with the local biker gang. Then Jason starts his killing spree. This film, I like that this is the one where he starts wearing a hockey mask, but it's still the same as like the other Friday the 13th films. This one isn't that great, just didn't really do much for me. Also, he kills a pregnant lady. So yeah, that was messed up. Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, picks up right after Part 3 with Jason in the barn, and the ambulance shows up to take the bodies to the hospital with Jason, who wakes and escapes the morgue. And then he kills people and leaves the hospital and goes back to Camp Crystal Lake. A group of friends is staying at the camp. The teens meet some locals, Tommy and Trish, as well as a secretive hiker, Rob, whose sister, Sandra, who was in Friday the 13th Part 2, who died from Jason, of course. Anyways, Rob's trying to hunt Jason to kill him as a group of teenagers drink and partying. Then they start dying off. In the movie, Jason just comes out of nowhere at times, killing people. Anyways, Tommy dressed up as Jason and killed him. Now, Friday the 13th Part 4, I would say, would have been the perfect ending to the franchise. So yeah, I love this film. It's pretty good. Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Years after Tommy Jarvis killed Jason Voorhees, he resides in a mental hospital and struggles with the trauma. When Tommy moves to another mental hospital called Penhurst, he has nightmares about Jason returning, and soon one of the patients is killed. As the body count grows, Tommy begins to question his sanity and wonder if Jason has risen from the dead. But the killer is just some paramedic whose son was killed by some guy, so yeah, that's it. Now, to me, this film I really don't care much for, but if some of you liked it, good for you. I just really didn't like this one at all. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, takes place years ago. Tommy Jarvis, played by Tom Matthews, killed Jason Voorhees, and to get closure to make sure he's actually dead, Tommy heads to the graveyard where Jason is buried, with his friend intending to dig up their body and cremate it. But lightning hits Jason and resurrects him from the dead, and Jason kills his friend. Tommy leaves to tell the sheriff about Jason's return, and he doesn't believe him, which the sheriff in the movie is really irritating. The sheriff's daughter comes in with her friends to tell the sheriff that none of the counselors have shown up yet, and the sheriff's daughter talks to Tommy a bit. And her friends go to camp to reopen it. In this one, there are actually kids at the camp too, which I thought helped make it scarier because you worry about what would happen to the kids, even though nothing happens. But still, it's a movie where there is a killer around, so yeah. Anyways, Jason returns back to camp and kills off counselors one by one again. When Jason goes after the sheriff's daughter, Megan, Tommy goes back to the camp to defeat Jason and gets in a boat so he can lure Jason out in the water, and there's fire all around. Tommy ties a chain around his neck, hanging him under the water. Anyways, I felt like this one was an improvement, and I really enjoyed this one. I would say the first and sixth one are the ones that I would watch over and over because I would say they are my most favorites, even though I do like the others. It's just this one I keep going to the most when I pick out a Friday the 13th movie. Tina, who had an abusive father, killed him by using telekinesis, and Tina has been to mental institutions over the guilt of her father's death, and her mother Amanda travel up to Crystal Lake to help her and return her life to normal. They meet her doctor, Dr. Cruz, there, who begins testing Tina and her abilities, explaining they are a side effect of her guilt and feelings, when in reality he hopes to exploit her and just keeps manipulating her for his own benefit, and he purposely keeps her stress level high and stuff to get her reactions out of her. Next door, there are more teens and stuff gathering for a birthday party of a friend, Michael, and Tina goes up to the docks and pretty much brings Jason back to life, and he starts killing people again. So basically, this movie is Carrie versus Jason, and it's not that bad of a film, but I wouldn't say it was the best. You will be entertained by it. Jason Voorhees, played by Kane Hodder, is resurrected from the bottom of Crystal Lake after he kills people on a passing boat. He hides on a cruise ship filled with high school graduating class bound for New York City. Biology teacher Charles is on board with his niece, who has visions of Jason drowning as a child. Jason starts killing people on the ship, and they try to escape, but when Rennie and Charles reach Manhattan, Jason is still after them. They kill him by drowning him in the sewer, and he turns into a kid for some reason. I didn't like this one. That's all I have to say. I didn't really enjoy Jason Takes Manhattan. After being shot multiple times and then blown up by a team of FBI agents, Jason Voorhees, played by Kane Hodder, his bloodied remains are sent to the morgue. His heart still intact, is able to hypnotize a coroner, take over his body. After brutally killing a couple of FBI agents, he heads back to Crystal Lake. Jason kills more teens, and while a bounty hunter played by Steven Williamson discovers the way to kill him, which is by people that are in his family. Also, this film, I really didn't really enjoy either. The only thing I took enjoyment out of it was the Necronomicon from Evil Dead and the Kandarian dagger from also Evil Dead, and Freddy Krueger's glove coming up, pulling Jason's mask down to hell with him. So yeah, which was telling us that we're getting Freddy versus Jason. So yeah, not really much that I liked about this film. Jason X. It shows Jason locked up, and he finds his way out, killing people in the process, chasing after this girl who freezes him, and then she gets frozen too in the process after getting stabbed. In 2455, Earth is abandoned for centuries, and humans have returned to the place, and they find Jason and her, and they resurrect them both. Jason kills people on the ship, and yada yada yada. I just hated Jason X. I mean, once Jason turned into Uber Jason, I thought that was cool, but just the whole film was stupid to me. Freddy versus Jason. Freddy Krueger, played by Robert Englund, who attacks his victims in their dreams, has lost much of his power since children don't really remember him anymore, and they become less afraid of him. He tricks Jason into helping him to go on a killing spree. However, when Jason won't stop killing Freddy's intended victims, the two start to fight each other. Now, the film is okay. I mean, I watch it a lot and I really do enjoy it, but I do think there could have been more in it. Maybe more of them fighting, or less of the... Don't really fight that long or as much. Just near the end of the movie, but I guess I understand why they need to put a story in it, I guess. I'm just saying it would have been nice if they at least fought more. I love this film for what it is, but could have been better. Clay, the guy from Supernatural, played by Jared Padalecki, searches for his missing sister around Crystal Lake. The guy from Supernatural runs into a group of college students who have come to the forest to party, and, well, they all suck. They're all annoying. I really hate them. Anyways, Jason took the Supernatural guy's sister because she reminded him of his mom, who got her head chopped off, and he watched kind of hidden in the bushes, so for some reason, I don't really know why. I mean, his mother in that scene said that her son was dead, but he was watching her. So, yeah. Anyways, people start dying. Jason starts off with a sack on his head until he gets the hockey mask, and the Supernatural guy finds his sister. They escape Jason's cabin and eventually kill him and throw him into the lake, just for him to jump out and grab his sister. Anyways, this film sucked and was just all of the 4 original Friday the 13ths put together. Yeah. Anyways, guys, that's my franchise review on Friday the 13th. I hope you all enjoyed this. Leave a comment below telling me your guys' opinions on the films. Which ones are your favorites? Which ones do you hate the most? If you like this video, click the like button. If you haven't yet, subscribe. Share this video around. And I'll see you all next time, and happy Friday the 13th. Oh, hi, Jason.